Join Revolution Radio every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Studio B for Momentary Zen with host Zen Garcia at freedomslips.com, the People Station.
Are you a fan of rock and roll? Does it get your feet tapping and your hands clapping? Then be sure to check out Crypt Rick's Rock and Roll Hour every Friday night, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern and Standard Time on Studio B right here at revolutionradio.com, where we get down and talk all things rock.
This is the People's War. It is our war. We are the fighters. Fight it then. Fight it with all that is in us. And may God defend the right.
Warning! Warning!
We've got to stop them! They're going to kill us all! See how the trouble you've started? Be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human beings. Time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. You've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheel.
Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported talk radio station, throwing ourselves upon the gears of the machine. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
You called down the thunder, well now you got it.
Right, you tell them I'm coming, and hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me.
Revolution Radio.
You're tuned to something different. No scripts, no limits, just pure, unfiltered thought. This is Free Association. Your host, Dennis Barker, brings you the ideas, the questions, and the tangents that matter. Joined by the sharp wit and insight of Karen and the one, the only Dr. Lenny Time. 3 minds, 2 hours, 0 guardrails. Free Association, because the best conversations never stay on topic. Join Dennis, Karen, and Dr. Lenny Time, Thursdays at noon Eastern, Studio B, here on Revolution Radio.
The spice expands consciousness. The spice is vital to space travel. Travel without moving.
Greetings, Earth Explorers. Welcome to X Squared Radio. I'm your host, Brooks Agnew, coming to you live from an undisclosed location east of the Appalachian Mountains. This is exactly where the past meets the future. And in here, the results are always positive. Now, we might go a little past your imagination, but have no fear. You will be safely traveling with us as we endeavor to treat, cure, and prevent the disease of ignorance. This is the voice of the revolution. And we are streaming to you live with our great friends at Revolution Radio on freedomslips.org, the #1 listener-supported network in the entire country. We're also streaming to you live on YouTube and Rumble and Twitch and DLive, X, Truth Refugee, and Foxhole. everywhere where fine podcasting can be found live and free. And our chat room is already filling up. Who was first in tonight? It was Kale Kelly was the first in. Good. For the Birds, that's a new one on Rumble. Thank you very much. Bosque Burning. 94 degrees in New Mexico. Wow, it was 65 here today. S. Barnett, Spartan Roger, Big D 1955. What is that? Shuni 7420. Boy Dogs 2 is here. Woof woof. Happy hump day. Big D 1955. Andrew Gibbs, Tupac Sugar, Ammon T223. Bayonet is here. Markov Sepian's here. Mona Haka's here. Yay! Excellent. And Shuni says, I asked Dark Journalist if he would have you on as a guest via email. They said they would look at my email. I didn't want to ask during his show, rather, and just check the email. I would love to be on his program. I have a lot of respect for Dark Journalist and all of the people that he has on there as guests. He does a fine job and very detail-oriented. Original Old Dog is here. Trey Sab is here. Let's see. Who else? What is that? Well, we'll see if you get a reply. Ask again during the Friday show. Okay, Cromwell's here. Norma 2310 is here. That's a new one from YouTube. Gramanon's here. Good stuff. Yeah, that's right. So Markov Sepian said he caught an old Art Bell show, and the guest referenced a paper that I wrote in 1977. It's true, that science paper on surface energy in 1977. Been publishing for a long, long time. You know, I have I crossed 10,000 technical papers and articles. That's a lot. Willie Fixit's over on Foxhole. Few people out there, not many. It's it'll come on. It'll come on later. All right, let's talk a little bit about this because we've been waiting to talk about this for a while. We've talked about the Great Fall of China. We've talked about the infiltration of the Mexican drug cartels with Chinese influence. And so this is something that we have been expecting for a while. And it is the arrests in the drug cartel networks. But the thing that makes tonight's article so interesting is where it happened in the networks. Because China owns the majority of the Democrats, absolutely owns them, finances their campaigns, takes care of their elections. And now there are 2 Chinese pharmaceutical companies and 6 Chinese citizens that have been indicted for allegedly supplying chemical precursors used to make fentanyl to be smuggled into the United States. Now, we've been talking about this for the better part of 2 years, about U.S. Special Forces infiltrating and investigating and chasing down the Mexican drug cartels. And I mean, they're going after them. They're going after the sellers, the bankers, the networks. And one of the things that they did is they networked into this. And according to FBI Director Kash Patel, the indictments, by the way, handed out by a federal grand jury in Ohio, were connected to what is called Operation Box Cutter. And it revealed an alliance between the Chinese companies and Mexico's Gulf cartel. This is just one, but this is what happens when Special Forces gets involved and they bust somebody. They get their phone, they get their networks, they get their tweets, their phone registers, all that stuff, all their metadata, and they begin to follow it. And they follow it all the way to the top. And I expect more indictments to come, and they may involve Democrat politicians and bankers. So all I have right now are the court records. And according to the court records, The Dayton, Ohio-based grand jury returned the indictments yesterday against the Shandong Believe Chemical Company and Shandong Ranghang Biotechnology Chemical Pharmaceutical Companies. These companies are worth billions. And believe me, they're greasing the palm of a lot of politicians. The indictments allege that the companies knowingly marketed, sold, and exported to the United States and elsewhere precursor chemicals, compounds, and substances intended for fentanyl production and distribution to drug traffickers. Mexico's notorious Gulf cartel was listed specifically in the indictment among the drug traffickers receiving the precursor materials. And President Sheinbaum is not happy at all about this. This just cuts right into Operation Box Cutter, cuts right into the cash flow that supports her government. The indictment alleges the two pharmaceutical companies openly marketed and sold something called metatomidine, an animal tranquilizer. What these drug traffickers do is that they cut the drugs, fentanyl, with this metatomidine to increase the yield of fentanyl without sacrificing the potency of the drug. And you wonder why we have 100,000 people a year dying from fentanyl. It's because these kids, these young people that are addicted to fentanyl, they get one of these and they end up going too far and their heart stops. 6 individuals listed as Chinese nationals in the indictments were named in the conspiracy as Hansen Zhao, Gao Yangpen, Xia Yi, Shang Jian, Wang Zoulan, and Zhang Chunhai. In a social, I know you're going to remember all those names, right? In a social media post on X on Tuesday, Director Patel called the indictments historic and attributes the process in the ongoing investigation dubbed Operation Box Cutter to unprecedented cooperation with China's Ministry of Public Security. The pressure is on. They are only going to let up to a certain level in the Chinese government be indicted and implicated in this, but they're going to hang them out to dry. The MPS, the security division, provided intelligence to the FBI-led multi-agency investigation that followed a historic visit to China by the FBI. Commenting on the indictments, the FBI director said President Trump promised and delivered sweeping policies to crush the plague of fentanyl in America. FBI and our partners are executing it across the country, and they're going after it 24/7, all levels, all government. This is an all government effort. And yes, there are military involved in this. And the military, by the way, extends now with the creation of the Shield of Americas with the liaison, Kristi Noem. Oh, yeah. Yeah, she didn't get fired. She got promoted, baby. And all of these countries, 15 countries that are involved in this Shield of Americas, they're pledging not just money and not just politicians. Oh, hell no. They're pledging their militaries, soldiers, investigators, JAGs. These people are going after them. And I got to tell you, if you get on the list for U.S. Special Forces, you should get your life affairs in order, because they're going to get you. They're going to get you. You have no idea how talented these people are. It's like James Bond, Ethan Hunt. It's that level of skill. In September, the Department of Justice announced previous indictments related to Operation Box Cutter, and that's where they got the connections the links to find these guys and track all this money and these thousands of drums of precursor chemicals that came into these factories in Mexico. And by the way, it included 3 U.S. citizens in that indictment in September, 22 Chinese nationals, and 4 other Chinese pharmaceutical companies suspected of carrying out an intentional drug trafficking operation. It's big. It's very big. Dominic S. Gerace III, the U.S. attorney for the Southern District of Ohio, commented on the earlier indictments connected to the Operation Box Cutter. And here's what he said. Our indictment alleges that Chinese companies and affiliated foreign nationals intentionally and openly marketed, delivered, and exported to the United States controlled substances and other compounds that they knew would be used by domestic drug dealers to increase the yield and potency of fentanyl distributed in this country. He goes on to say, as explained in court documents, these deadly drug mixtures were then sold directly into our communities here in Southern Ohio. This is a big deal. It's a big deal. And it's not limited to Ohio. It's going to spread. These guys are going to talk, and they're going to save their own asses by turning other people in. And I make this prediction right here tonight on America Free Radio. It is only a matter of time before we see elected Democrats in the list of indictments. It is only a matter of time. I told you these organizations are addicted to the cash. They can't give it up. Hang on a second. Let me take care of that notification sound because it's going to keep bugging us all night long if I don't stop it. You have to do it manually in here. Hold on one second here. There it is. Give me a second. We're in Discord. That's why this gets complicated. Otherwise, these notifications are going to ding all night long. Okay. Disable all notification sounds. Done. Okay. This is going to spread, and it won't be very long. You're going to start seeing elected Democrat officials implicated, indicted, and hauled in. And it's not going to be small because these guys are addicted to the cash. This is how they fund their elections and buy all the votes that you're seeing getting bought on the street. You've seen those. O'Keefe and others have gone undercover and found where they're actually buying signatures and buying votes on the street for drugs and money and cash. Yeah. It's Democrats that are doing it. That's, sooner or later, these elected officials are going to get busted. Yes. Now here's the thing, Washaki Win. President Xi, yes, he is the president of China, but he doesn't necessarily run all of the CCP. He's trying to root out corruption in it, but I'm telling you, the cash that we're talking about here is in the billions. It's in the billions. And there are a lot of Chinese generals that are getting caught on a regular basis, and their house is stuffed with cash, stacked to the ceiling. They don't dare put it in banks. And what they're looking for is a way to get out of the country with the money. It isn't easy to do, but when they bust them, they usually are put to death. Yeah, it's happening. It's happening. I don't think President Xi is in control of everything. I think he wishes he was, but he's not. When President Trump talks with him, he assures them that if they catch people in the drug business, it's a very short-lived trial, like one day and you're dead. Of course, the interesting thing is that American young people are the ones dying of the fentanyl, and that serves Communist Chinese goals. All right. Take that with a grain of salt. I'm just giving you the news as I get it, and you probably haven't heard about this. The other is, we've been talking about John Cornyn and Ken Paxton, that primary election that's going on for Republican seat of Senate in Texas. Now, John Cornyn has been in Washington for 40 years. He is a very, very senior senator, and he has a lot of power, a lot of connections. He has spent exceeding $100 million on his primary, just his primary, and he didn't really expect to be primaried. He's not being primaried by the GOP. He's being primaried by Ken Paxton, who has spent about $9.32 on his campaign, but he doesn't have to because he's the former Attorney General of the state of Texas, and everybody knows him and everybody loves him, and he's actually bringing it to John Cornyn. So I have put this warning out, and I know Trump's organization is listening to this program because they sometimes quote what I say. I don't care if they give me the byline or not. That's not important. I'm trying to get it out there so you will say it. President Trump should exercise extreme caution in the endorsement game in Texas. I know what he said. I know what he hinted, that he was considering, endorsing John Cornyn. If he endorses John Cornyn and Paxton wins anyway, it will devastate the MAGA brand, especially in the state of Texas, because they will see Trump as a sellout. He will have sold out to John Cornyn, who's holding the SAVE Act hostage. The lowest, stinkiest, nastiest, slimiest politics. Trump should stay away from it. Keep in mind that there is a 100% chance that John Cornyn will betray President Trump in the Senate. He will betray him. And I'm recommending that Trump endorses no one. Don't endorse Cornyn. Don't endorse Paxton. Both come with poison pills. Let it play out without you in the ring. Let them fight it out. A new poll shows that Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton holding an advantage over Senator John Cornyn in the Republican Senate runoff, with the GOP electorate largely decided and highly certain to vote, and with many of Representative Wesley Hunt's former supporters now backing Paxton. John Cornyn is panicking. He thought that his seniority, he thought that his deal making, his backroom slimy ass smoky room bullshit would get him the Trump endorsement and squeak him past Ken Paxton. Not going to do it. Qantas Insights said yesterday that in a Texas Republican Senate primary runoff poll, Paxton leads Cornyn 48.8% to 41.3%. Let me tell you, that's sweating spinal fluid time for John Cornyn. 9.9% is undecided. Don't fool yourself. They already know who they're going to vote for. They're just not saying. The polling memo also noted that nearly 58% of Wesley Hunt's supporters are now backing Paxton. That's huge. That's huge because Wesley Hunt is firmly with Paxton. It suggests consolidation among non-Cornyn voters following the March 3rd primary. And as I said, John Cornyn spent $100 million. Ken Paxton's spent about $9.32. So the survey further indicates a relatively firm electorate. And by firm, I mean 88.1%. 88.1% of the respondents said they are likely to vote, certain to vote. That's very high. Usually it's about 67%. 78.7% described their choice as definite. Among respondents, Paxton supporters appear slightly more locked in, with 88% saying their vote is definitely definite compared to 86% of Cornyn's supporters. Now, And it's tricky how they ask these questions and determine this and weight these questions so that they get these answers and these determinations. But one of the things that they really look for is voter certainty. Voter certainty. And the poll found that 92% of Paxton voters say they are certain to vote. Only 86% of Cornyn voters said they were willing or actually definitely going to vote. The report characterized the runoff electorate as largely settled, highly certain to vote, and not especially movable. In other words, the Trump endorsement isn't going to do diddly shit. So don't do it. Okay? If you're sitting next to Donald Trump or you're talking to Stephen Miller, who's his new chief of staff, tell him not to do this endorsement. Stay out of it. You're not going to change it. You're not going to change people's minds. Qantas Insights data also examined. I'm still getting notification dings. Wait a minute. Maybe that's coming from there. Let's close that out and see that. That'll take care of that. You're probably not hearing those, but I am, which leads me to believe you may be. Qantas Insights data also examined the impact of endorsements, including from Donald Trump. For Paxton, 25.3% of respondents said Trump's endorsement would make them more likely to vote for him. See, it's not as high as you think. 63% said it would make no difference. That's what I'm saying. I am America. Okay? Not that I'm leading America. I am so typical. What I say America wants is going to be the most popular brand. It's going to be the top selling car. It's going to be the best selling jeans. Just ask me. Okay? For Cornyn, 18.3% said the endorsement would make them more likely to support him, with 70% indicating no difference. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's not worth it. We're not talking about J.D. Vance here, a relative nobody in Ohio that wins his primary because President Trump endorsed him. No one knew who he was until President Trump said, well, I like J.D. Vance. Boom! J.D. Vance won. These are two well-known commodities. Stay neutral. Everybody's saying that. I'm not the only one. Breitbart's saying the same thing. Let's see here. John Cornyn's campaign has come under increasing scrutiny following the revelation of his record of supporting President Joe Biden's judicial nominees. A lot of these 167 judges that have formed this judicial cartel come from John Cornyn's work. Cornyn voted to confirm the double-digit numbers of those nominees, many during the 117th Congress when Republicans had leverage in an evenly split Senate. Cornyn voted with the Democrats. With support from Cornyn and other Republicans, the confirmations did not require the tie-breaking votes from the vice president, who was at the time Kamala Harris. The consequences for the Trump administration have been described as severe, as judges confirmed with that support have issued rulings affecting policies related to immigration enforcement, fighting fraud, and tariffs. As I said, it is a judicial cartel, and they are perpetrating a coup against the executive branch. Many of these judges came from that split Senate, and John Cornyn was involved. And he's never been a strong Trump supporter. In fact, he's been kind of a never-Trumper. It is blindingly obvious that leader John Thune, you know who he is by now. Normally, you wouldn't give a rat's ass who the Senate Majority Leader is. But, he's the guy that decides what's going to come to the floor for a vote or not. But he would much rather have John Cornyn back in Congress because John Cornyn is very senior, controls a lot of money, and John Thune can count on him when he wants to. But Thune is a little bit like, to me, my flavor is a little bit like Chief Justice Roberts. Okay? On the surface, he looks like a clean-cut guy. He's got all the right committees, all the right pedigrees, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the game, he is against America. He is just for John Cornyn. And that's a big problem. Cornyn's failure is obvious because he didn't capture even close to 50% of the vote. Had he done so, there would be no runoff election against Paxton. But despite the far left and genuinely weird Democrat nominee, I don't know if you know who James Tallarico is, but he is a weirdo. I don't mean just a weirdo. I mean he's a homo weirdo. Okay, he believes that God is non-binary. He's single. He's childless. And I don't want to know what this guy does on his private time. I'll put it that way. I just don't want to even get it on my hands. Cornyn's unpopularity may reduce GOP turnout in the general election enough. They're worried that if John Cornyn wins, this Tallarico guy may actually have a chance because Republicans just won't show up to vote for the guy. They won't show up to vote for Cornyn, which means this Tallarico guy could, get all the old Jasmine Crotchet voters. And this is why Thune should really, I'm just telling you, John, if you're listening tonight or your staff is listening tonight, some do, some don't. If you're listening tonight, you need to pounce all over that Ken Paxton campaign. Okay? You need to get on his offer. All right. Let's see. Oh, Sunday morning, President Trump put even more pressure on Thune to get moving on the Save America Act legislation by taking to Truth Social and issuing the following ultimatum. I like Trump's ultimatums usually. Here's one. I, as president, will not sign other bills until this is passed. I think it's pretty definitive, and he hasn't. And, I, for one, am pretty happy about that. I think we have too many laws anyway. If they could just say, we're not signing any laws for 12 months, they'd get my vote right away. In fact, start rescinding a lot of laws. Senate Democrats who fear few things more than election integrity would certainly filibuster any bill asking for photo ID. But the Republican leadership is under increasing pressure to either kill the filibuster or force Senate Democrats to endure what's called a talking filibuster. Right now we have what's called a zombie filibuster, which is just like, we're filibustering, and so that means you have to have 60 votes. You have to have 60 votes to pass anything, and that's called a zombie filibuster. It's sort of like, don't make me come down there and filibuster, because we will, we'll filibuster. So you might as well just take it, consider, get your 60 votes, or don't try to do this. Well, the talking filibuster is actually what was originally agreed to in the rules. The zombie filibuster is something that the minority just kind of got used to. You remember when Justice Scalia died, and it left an opening in the Supreme Court, and Obama just immediately jumped on it and said, I want Merrick Garland. And the Senate said, you know what? Nah. It's an election year or very close to it. You're a lame duck. You know what? We're just going to wait till the next president. And so Mitch McConnell, who was then the minority leader, said, nope, you're going to need 60 votes. And the Democrats didn't have it. They didn't have it. So that election year ended. Trump got elected, and he got his Supreme Court justices, 3 of them. And otherwise, we'd have had Merrick Garland on the Supreme Court. We would have prayed for someone like Action Jackson, who's, I still don't know how she plays into the Supreme Court or not. Her opinions are way out there, whacked out weird. I don't even know where she comes from sometimes. Well, I guess I do know where she comes from, but I don't want to know about that. But that's where the zombie filibuster came from Mitch McConnell and people like him who really didn't want to filibuster, but they just said they were going to filibuster. And so the majority party said, well, shit, they're going to filibuster, so we're going to have 60 votes. And that's where it came from. It just kind of zombied out. But what they're trying to do now is they're trying to do a talking filibuster, which once the bill's put to the floor, then the filibuster begins, and somebody has to stand there for however long he can stand there without peeing his pants. Or maybe they don't care if he pees his pants, but he has to stay conscious for as long as he talks. And as soon as he sits down, as soon as he yields, as soon as he shuts up, they have a vote. And the vote would ostensibly be 50-50, right? And then J.D. Vance would break the tie, and that would be it. It would pass. That's why a talking filibuster is what they're trying to get to. But John Thune doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to alter the Senate rules. He's trying to make sure that they keep the filibuster and not a talking filibuster, because the talking filibuster is just not quite as effective for the minority as the zombie filibuster. And John Thune is one of those guys that has been in the Senate long enough that sometimes he's in the minority and sometimes he's in the majority. The Democrats are the only ones that treat it like they're in the majority, even if they're in the minority, right? Yeah. What shocking word. Justice Jackson graduated with honors from the DEI School of Law. Whatever. Wow. It's true, though. It's very true. Anyway, this Save America Act is not what everybody thinks it is. Well, what everybody thought it was. Originally, it was very simple. It was very simple. It was short, like this short. Vote once, in person, with ID. That very simple. But a lot of amendments have been made. A lot of argument and debate has been made. For instance, okay, what actually constitutes ID? Huh? Well, you got to have a birth certificate. Well, what if you don't? What if you're a naturalized citizen? What if, then all these amendments start coming in, and now it's to the point where, okay, you can use a driver's license as your ID, but the hardliners are saying, no, that's not good enough, because we want proof of citizenship, not just proof of your home address, which a driver's license will do. They want proof of citizenship. So now there are amendments on the floor as part of the Save America Act to make getting that proof of citizenship affordable for everybody, right? It varies from state to state, from $2 to, I think, $7. You can go to the Office of Vital Statistics in any state. Doesn't matter. You can go to their website. And there is a link right there that says, get a certified copy of your birth certificate. Right here. Boom. And there's a fee. It's $2, $7, but you get it in like 3 days, right? But the Democrats are trying to say, well, Black people are too poor. They can't afford the $2. So now there's an amendment saying, if you're getting your birth certificate for the purpose of registering to vote, it's free. It doesn't even cost you a stamp. So they're trying to remove any appearance of a poll tax, any appearance of, trying to disenfranchise somebody because they can't scrape together $2 or $5 or $7 for their birth certificate. They don't have a bank account. They don't have a debit card. I mean, right? They live on cash. So what was the question? I missed it. Hang on a second. Why do you think Pam Bondi is such a no-show as Attorney General? I'm getting to that. But I agree with you, Mona Hawk. That's why recently something unprecedented was done in the Department of Justice, and they created an assistant attorney general. An assistant attorney general with like a gavel and everything, had ready to go. And their area of concentration is fraud. So you're going to see amazing things out of that assistant attorney general, but you wouldn't have to have an assistant if the real attorney general would actually do her job. Now, of course, this establishes precedent. That is to say, this has never been done before. Now it has been done. So you're going to see another assistant attorney general. Now, you haven't heard this anywhere but right here. I'm just saying I'm pretty good at predicting these kinds of things, but you're going to see another attorney general that's going to be assigned to election integrity. Yes. And it is going to be part of the Emergency Election Infrastructure Act. You've never heard that before except right here on America Free Radio. When the Trump administration introduces this, it will be under an emergency basis. And the primary gist of the act is to ban mail-in voting of any kind. It's going to be super clean, no mail-in voting of any kind. Of course, immediately people are going to come back and say, well, what about people that are in the hospital? What about people that are serving in the military? We make it possible for them to vote in person. Yep. There aren't that many in the hospital that want to vote, maybe 500 or 1,000 of them. And there are not that many people serving on military bases where they can't get here to vote. You can set up a precinct there. They don't have to make a mail-in ballot. They can make a real ballot in person and report just like a real precinct. Vote once in person with ID. The Emergency Election Infrastructure Act. When that happens, you're going to see tens of millions of voters drop off the rolls. And that's going to infuriate Democrats because they're all going to be Democrats that are missing. And they're going to say, that's not fair. You're not letting Democrats vote. Well, it is fair because we're only letting citizens vote. That's the big difference. That's the big difference. What is that? Birth certificate from another state other than your state of birth. Why would you do that? You can't get a birth certificate from another state. You have to go to the state where you were born. No, you don't have to drive to the state. You can go to that state's website. Why would you get a birth certificate in Texas if you were born in Ohio? That's about the dumbest thing I ever heard. Yeah. I know I'm waiting for one to arrive from Illinois and on from Texas. You should get it in 3 days. It's like $2 or $7 for a certified copy. I never heard of it taking 90 days. I never heard of it taking a week. You're doing something wrong. That's all I can tell you. You're doing something wrong. Yeah, there you go. It's free online to get your birth certificate, and it's free. It's free. It don't cost nothing. All right. I think that's about as far as I can go with that. I'll cover more about the election as we get closer, but I just got to tell you, elections don't start till Labor Day, and it's in August, all right? So we're not going to get too riled up. But what has to take place now, while we have time, is this election infrastructure clarity. What shock you when you're so sharp. You are like a rat turd, sharp at both ends. He said Barry Obama got his birth certificate for free all the way from Kenya. Yeah. And they even had to fabricate it. and he got it for free. Wow. It only cost him $25 million to seal all the other records. Pretty nice. Pretty well said. All right. Also, I want to announce that Trump was right again. Sorry. You recall when German officials laughed. Excuse me. That's what happens when the water goes down the wrong pipe. Let's try that. Okay, let's make it happen. German officials laughed when President Trump warned them about closing down their nuclear power plants in favor of wind and solar. You remember this? Yeah, a shot of old Irish, right? Well, Germany made a huge error by rushing to... Sorry, folks. One more dash here. They shut down their nuclear power plant fleet, which is a mistake that has exacerbated the energy crisis in Europe, because wind and solar just ain't cutting it. The Turkish economist who has led the International Energy Agency for over a decade, who is engaged in a shuttle diplomacy to persuade first world producer nations to stop throttling their own domestic oil and gas extraction, has said the present contraction in supply would be less severe if Germany had not bottled it in the past decade and rushed to become nuclear free. Of course, this was a little made worse by Victoria Nuland, who was in charge of, I would say, this is my personal opinion, but she was heavily involved in the destruction of the Nord Stream pipeline. That pipeline fed natural gas to Germany. And when it blew up, it cut off that supply of cheap gas. And then they closed their nuclear power plants because they wanted to become nuclear free. Whatever. Instead, Germany declared it wanted to become a carbon-free and denuclearize at the same time, leaving it plugging the gaps around its experiments with renewables, with imported gas and oil, which, by the way, came largely from the Russian Federation, until the Ukraine war began. And this decision was in spite of repeated loud warnings about the danger of undermining the nation's energy security by President Trump. He warned them, and they went, ha, 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 ha. We laugh at your warning. We laugh in your general direction. The IEA boss, his name is Fatih Birol, said of the temporary closure of the Straits of Hormuz and the Gulf, I don't get the impression that political decision makers have yet grasped the magnitude of the problem we are facing, and that Europe would be in a stronger position with more nuclear energy. He said of Germany, Germany made a huge strategic error. I've been saying this for almost 20 years, like a broken record. By shutting down its nuclear power plants, the situation wouldn't be so bad today if Germany still had the power plants. It's not that easy to start them back up. For all as warning against European nations artificially limiting their menu of options for power generation, Bureau nevertheless betrayed something of a prejudice against gas and oil, stating that it was pointless for European nations to start trying to increase domestic production with drilling now because he thought that new energy wouldn't come to market for a decade, which is probably stretching it a little, maybe 6 years. It takes a while to get the pipeline flowing. It's not just the pipeline, it's all the workers for all the processes in that line. They also have to be hired and trained and certified. All those pipes have to be re-examined and x-rayed. It takes a while. He acknowledged that he was engaged in a campaign of energy diplomacy, traveling world energy producing nations, including gas and oil producers, Australia, Canada, Mexico, and the US, to talk to them about ramping up their supply and feeding it to Germany, which President Trump's open-minded to doing, but at market prices. It could be very lucrative for the United States to do that. And Trump offered to do it when the Nord Stream pipeline was destroyed. We will bring you compressed natural gas. Iran has held the global economy hostage with threats to close the Straits of Hormuz waterway if it wasn't left alone to export terror and develop a nuclear program. But President Trump put an end to that. As reported earlier this month, no less a person than the head of the European Union, Ursula von der Leyen, who was a minister in the German government when the decision was made and voted in favor of to shut down the nuclear power plants. She said just about 5 days ago, this reduction in the share of nuclear was a choice. I believe that it was a strategic mistake for Europe to turn its back on a reliable, affordable source of low-emission power. This should change. Nuclear is reliable, producing electricity all year, around the clock. It's amazing how these politicians change their stripes when things go exactly the way President Trump said they were going to go. I agree with Shaku, and the Germans are smart. They have good technology. They should have known better. But I just got to tell you, I think Europe's screwed. I think they're screwed. I think Islam has invaded it, has weakened it, and it is not going to be very long, but the important parts of Europe are going to be in the hands of Muslims, including weapons. I'm just telling you. Migration, mass migration like this, aggressive migration like this is a weapon. And it's been used by the global syndicate to take the European nations apart. And it's succeeded. Maybe Italy will be able to pull out of it. The only states, the only nations in the European Union that have managed to keep themselves out of the quagmire are the ones that have refused to let any refugees come into the country. Poland, Hungary, these countries have kept refugees out of their country, and they don't have the problems. Poland is fantastic. Latvia, fantastic. Hungary, fantastic. Why? No migrants. All right, how much time? We got about 4 minutes left in this hour, so I don't want to start the next story. Let me just deep scan the chat rooms here. I haven't paid much attention to Foxhole. Space Cookie's out there. Raising Cane is out there. Willie Fixit's out there. Okay. We already talked about that. Hold on a second. You like my puns, huh? They're punishing, aren't they? Yeah, Grandma. I'll surely do that. Whiskey with soft peppermint dissolved makes great cough syrup. Yeah, it isn't that. It's that I'm drinking water and talking, and there I breathed in and aspirated water down my lungs, and that caused the coughing. So I'm not bothered by the allergies this year as normally I am. Actually, normally it's the October pollen stuff. Whatever blooms in October just messes me up. Now, my son and both my grandkids are bothered now. Something in the spring causes their nose to run, eyes to water, coughing. It comes and goes, but I'm not bothered by the springtime. Tupac says, English in German, born in the USA. Well, I'm Scottish and a little Swedish, but I identify with the Scots. I'm radical and I don't like the Royals at all. Yes, Tesla was Serbian. Smart people, very smart people. Well, if you want to talk about national IQ, the intelligence quotient, a lot of people must realize that does change with time as you gain more aptitude. That is to say, you build skill levels with different things, or even your aptitude with taking tests. The act of thinking through problems will make you smarter and make your IQ better. But generally speaking, IQ is a physical characteristic. It's a part of your chemical memory. We have three kinds of memory. You recall what they are. We have light memory, we have star memory, and we have chemical memory. The chemical memory comes from our parents. Their haploid DNAs come together to make a complete set. That's given to us. We're some of her, some of him, and all those people that make them up. And you inherit that chemical memory. So you have certain propensities. Run faster, jump higher, see farther, sing better, blah, blah, blah. But then you have a star memory. That's the materials that are used to build your body come from the earth in alignment with certain stars, and that memory is instilled in you as well. We'll take a quick break. I'll finish the thought when we come back from the break, all right? Be right back.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Tune in to the Family Industrial Complex podcast here on Revolution Radio, Studio B, every Wednesday, 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Get fit, empowered, physically, mentally, and spiritually.
Rooster has crowed out the opening bars of a new day. You've dragged yourself out of bed. You turn on your device. You want to know what's going on in the world. But You're hungry for a topical show that serves up those breakfast headlines just that little bit differently. Do you like your early morning news the way you like your eggs over easy? Served with slathers of salsa-like sass? Do you like those first headlines of the day to deliver a punch as powerful as that first cup of joe? Join Mitchell Bupp at his breakfast table for Revolution in the Morning, where he will digest, dissect, and dismantle those new day's national and global news headlines with razor-sharp relish. Find Mitchell here at revolution.radio every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday morning, 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern on Studio B.
Through everything, we have to remember that we have more in common than not in common. And to find this common ground, tune in to Conversations with Eagleflower, Wednesdays, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Studio A. Because we come to this table of life to learn in the best possible way and experience this gift of life from our mutual Creator. So let's learn together and build our best future with Conversations with Eagleflower, Wednesdays, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, Studio A on Revolution Radio.
I will defend myself against their tyranny. Number 3 is my radio broadcast. I'm squarely in front of the public all the time, and they all know what's going on.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence.
Hello, my name is John Wayne, and I do a broadcast here at freedomslips.com, revolution.radio, called The Unequivocal Truth, DEFCON 1.
Freedom and fear are at war.
And folks, I assure you, we are in Defense Commission 1. As we journey perilously through this paradigm that we currently reside in. And I ask that you join me every Saturday, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for The Unequivocal Truth, DEFCON 1.
We'll never surrender.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Any commercial advertising you may hear in this program is of the sole discretion and benefit of the host of whose program you are listening to. Revolution Radio does not endorse any commercial products, nor does it accept monetary compensation for on-air advertising of commercial products, nor will it ever. We are and shall remain 100% listener supported. Any product advertising on this program are considered used at higher risk, and Revolution Radio shall not be held liable for any claims or damages received from any product advertised within this program. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Thanks for hanging in there while we took that short break. Now back to America Free Radio with host Brooks Agnew here at Revolution Radio.
Gosh, I really love being part of Revolution Radio. It's just cool. I never get over hearing my own name being announced on that, and I appreciate it very much. Those of you listening by Revolution Radio, you're listening through TalkStream Live and iHeartRadio and TuneIn Radio, Orange Radio, all over the country by audio. Listen closely, because we're going to go to my website, which is brooksagnew.com, brooksagnew.com. Those of you watching by video, several hundred of you out there, I can't see how many are watching on X, but we had 178 on X on Sunday, so I imagine some of those people are still here. We're going to click on this button that says Brooks Agnew's homepage, and that's going to take us to the homepage directly. It's brooksagnew.com if you forget about it. You'll know you're at the right place because it says, I'm Brooks Agnew. There's my picture. Come on, it doesn't get any easier than that or simple. On the right is a button that says, get my free newsletter. It doesn't get any easier than that. In fact, I'll just click on it just to show you. It's two things, right? Your name, your email, that's it. I don't want any other information from you. It will work, I promise you. Very simple. The other button is Ivan and Fenben without a prescription. Now, what this button does is it takes you to a special page inside my website where you can buy a digital report on this product, which you already know what it does. So you buy the digital report from me, and I take the money you spend with me, and I buy the product and send it to you. And it's right now at an 8% discount. We may consider lowering that price just a little bit, but right now it's about the cheapest in the country. And you can also get fenbendazole, which we sell the 440 milligram strength because a lot of people are using it to treat themselves for various things. And the other thing is hydroxychloroquine. And of course, I have that in stock. I have these in stock except for the first product. It's coming. It's behind right now because the federal government is shut down, and it is keeping U.S. Customs from doing their job the way they're supposed to do it. And so much of our product is stuck in New York. It will get here eventually, and then we'll ship it to you. We're trying to stock our U.S. warehouse so these orders go out in 4 days. If you order hydroxychloroquine, you're going to get it in 4 days. If you order fenbendazole, you're going to get it in 4 days. Okay. The other, it's just going to take a little bit longer because we've had a huge demand on it. And all that stuff sitting in New York right now. But as soon as it gets here, we'll ship it out. If you have any questions about how to use this stuff for yourself, get the book, Fenbendazole and Ivermectin Protocols, a practical handbook. It is the #1 bestseller in its field. It's about $15. I don't make a penny on it. I can't because it's the #1 bestseller. But I am giving you the link so you can get it right here. Get the handbook. Also, don't forget about your True Niagen. Those of you that want to be younger, not just look younger, you need to take True Niagen because it will teach your body how to make NAD again. NAD is the molecule of youth. With that molecule, your body will increase its concentration of mitochondria, which will give you access to energy like you had in your 40s. If you're in your 50s or 60s or 70s, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? The True Niagen replaces all that. I take 600 milligrams a day, and without it, there's no way I could do what I'm doing right now. In fact, I wouldn't look the way that I look right now. And don't forget your zinc. You have to do the zinc. The zinc is the butt kicker when it comes to keeping your cells healthy, right? Against viruses and infections. ZMA is what I take, zinc, magnesium, and vitamin B6 complex. This is the best on the market. In my opinion, best source for zinc you can get. I take it every single day. And don't forget about your insulin. I have mine right here. I have to put a few drops under my tongue several times a day, and it keeps my A1C numbers down, much to the astonishment of my doctors. And don't forget about the Himalaya toothpaste. Get the fluoride out of your life. This is the last thing you have to get rid of, right? You're filtering your water, right? Or you're drinking bottled water that doesn't have fluoride in it. You might as well take it out of your toothpaste. It's the same price as the Crest, the Colgate, and Aquafresh you're buying in the grocery store. That's crap. You don't want to put those chemicals in your mouth. Try the Himalaya toothpaste. I promise you'll like it. All right. I was talking about chemical memory and light memory and star memory. So let me touch on that again just to bring you up to date. The biological transducer, which is this thing right here, that allows our spirit to interpret the third dimension, is quite the machine. And it is built with physical chemicals with a program that's called our DNA. And that DNA is the chemical memory that's handed down to us from our parents. So your height, your hair color, your bone structure, physical propensities that you have to run or play music or stay slim or be overweight or have diabetes, it's all programmed from your parents. So you can thank them for that. But there are two other kinds of memory. One of them is the star memory. Now, of course, all those materials that are used to build that first body that you had when your spirit was bonded with this physical transducer, this biological transducer, it was consumed by the mother. The mother ate it, converted it, it ran the program and started building your body. And by the time it got big enough where it could at least have the basic systems, out into the world you came. But you couldn't even wipe your own ass or feed yourself. So everything had to be taken care of you for years, right? But the physical body that you had for the first 7 years is the first set of materials. And you could probably say even to the 12th year, but every 7 years or so, that physical body turns over. That is to say, every cell in your body, with the exception of a few, less for females, more for males, is replaced. Okay, so the first set, the set in which you build 80% of your personality, all of your likes and dislikes and habits and things like that you have to overcome or improve on for the rest of your life, is done by the time you're 7 years old. That first set. And that set of material comes from the stars to this planet. And so whatever stars are in the heavens at the time that your body's built, from the time it goes from 1 cell to 2 cells to the billions of cells that make up your body, that those stars are involved in that process. So it used to be for years and years, astrologers would say, oh, as soon as the umbilical cord is cut, that's your astrological sign, right? You're a Gemini, you're a Cancer, you're a Taurus, you're a Pisces, whatever. See, I think of it a little bit different. I think it goes back to conception. What were the stars aligned like when your body first started being built? I think that's the propensity that you lean to when you're born. Now, I get in arguments with astrologers all the time over this, and they have their opinion, and I have my scientific background. So that's a matter of, I guess, evidence. But that's the star memory. The light memory is something completely overlooked a lot of times. That is who you really are. Because you're really older than the stars. You're older than solar systems. But as a shard of source, each lifetime that you have lived has added to your light memory, added to the pattern that is the true you. I used to tell my kids when I drop them off at school, remember who you are. Remember who you are. You're not just some kid, you're not just some kid. You're not driven by every wind of passion. You have a core that's older than this world. Remember who you are. And for a large part, my kids have done that. Raised good dads, good moms, and I continue to grow. Now, the combination of these three is what makes up what animates the biological transducer. That's you. That's your physical body. And you can take care of it or you can abuse it. It's your choice. Your choice. You're going to get diseases, you're going to get injured, but it's your choice. How long this lives is a construct of what you decide to do. We were talking about intelligence quotient, IQ, and it turns out that there have been assumptions and there have been prejudices, prejudgments that have been laid upon people. And so they have come up with a series of independent and I would say objective tests that will determine the intelligence quotient of an individual within a certain range, pretty tight range. And it can change over time based on what you do with your aptitude and how good you get at taking tests, how good you get at critically thinking, problem solving. I was tested a lot when I was a little kid because after my lost time experience, I just went off the charts. I mean, I just knew everything. The teachers hated me. But I was lucky in that my older brother got me into some child psychology study programs at the University of Long Beach. And I was a subject of a lot of studies and a lot of tests, lots of tests. And it turns out that my IQ was growing as I got older. So I had it professionally tested many times. And I finally quit the program. I think I was in my late 20s. I think I was 28 the last time I had my IQ tested, and it's gone way up since then. But the last time I had my IQ officially tested, it was 215. Now that's scary high. Now a lot of that comes from, being a member of Mensa and getting used to taking tests. I did graduate in the top 1% of all graduating seniors in the entire United States. That's an objective test that's given to every college student that graduates. And I was in the top 1/10 of 1%. And in Mensa, they have different grades. Okay, they have the 99%. That means you score 99s on every test you take. Then there's the 99.5. Then there's the 99.8. And there's the 99.9. I'm in the 99.9 class. And Mensa questions are both time, you only elapsed time, you only get so many seconds to answer the question, and the number answered correctly. So a lot of Mensa questions only have 45 seconds, 60 seconds. You have to have the answer in 45 to 60 seconds. And it's critical thinking. And sometimes I answer them in 8 seconds, 15 seconds, 12 seconds. And you don't know where that ability comes from, but it's there. And it's just scared the shit out of everybody that I've ever been associated with my entire life. So I learned in my 30s to keep my damn mouth shut. Don't say so much. I didn't start this program until 2005. Wow, that makes it 21 years. In fact, it's 21 years this month that we have been on the air. Isn't that crazy? That's a long time. And it's okay because I've been a guest on lots of programs, thousands and thousands of programs, but people come back to this one because I'm the only guest. Every once in a while I do have a guest, but you've already heard all them on all the other programs. You don't get to hear me unless you come here. So that's the way it is. But as I was saying, there are certain prejudices, certain prejudgments that are out there about certain peoples. And one of them was Nigeria. Just common talk out there that Nigerians had a depressed IQ as a people. And they're probably not alone. Somalis are right there and, all that. But the Nigerians decided officially to respond to this. And they conducted a study, which was pretty robust. Several thousand people, males, females, different age groups. And what they found was that the average IQ out of the thousands of people tested, all age groups, was about 70.3 average IQ. And the median, that is to say, of the 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people that they checked, the one in the middle was 69 or 68, which is, it's functionally retarded. Okay, this is somebody that could wash dishes, somebody who couldn't remember an area code if their life depended on it, but they could get themselves dressed, fed to a basic job, hand labor job, and then home again. Functional retardation. Normally, a factory worker, you would want somebody in the 80s, 90s, not too smart because you don't want them to get bored with their job, but smart enough that they can learn a task and learn another task and learn another task and become proficient at it. And it goes up from there, nationally based on the nations. But when you get somebody, it's 120, 130, these are well above average people, smart people, engineers, teachers in that range. You get the 140 to 150, you're in the professor, doctor range like that. You get above 150, these people are not functional in society. You can imagine how, as a 215, I'm handicapped. I'm handicapped because I can't fit into any social structure. I have to consciously think. I have to go through a syllable reduction program to stay in that. And then you can only maintain it for a year or two at a time. And when you see these brilliant engineers with 180s, 190s, 200s as their IQs, 2 to 3 years is all they ever get to spend on a job, because they scare the shit out of everybody above them. No one wants to be replaced by them. And the only company that I can think of right now, offhand, just the top of my head, that actually allowed somebody very smart to rise to the head of that company and run it is Elon Musk. Elon Musk is probably one of the most brilliant men to have ever lived, based on the number of breakthroughs that he can do in the number of industries that he's in. His imagination is completely unbridled because he's a trillionaire, and it's facilitated because he's a trillionaire. It's not like being a psychopath or being a sociopath, which you see brilliant politicians. They're all sociopaths, and some of them are psychopaths. The difference is a sociopath thinks he's the shit, right? I got to win, and I'm the guy, and I got the hair and the tie, and I'm going to win. See my smile. The psychopath does not know the difference between right and wrong. He doesn't know the difference. He has no remorse. He has no regrets whatsoever. He will kill. He will contract to be killed. He will steal. He will lie, and he'll not think he's done anything wrong. That's a psychopath. And the interesting thing is that the psychopath and the genius have almost identical genetic makeups. That's how close the line is to being a serial killer or being a brilliant inventor. It's pretty crazy, isn't it? That it's like right there. I need a handicap hanger for my car. No. I thought about that one time, because the handicapped people always get to park close. And I said, man, I got to get me one of these. And then I realized, no, I actually don't got to get one of these. I like being able to do everything. Everything works. Nothing's been broken all the way through. Yes, boy dogs too. That's right. Yeah, it would be very much lower in Somalia due to the inbreeding. Yeah, we may be looking at a general IQ of about 50 in Somalia. Yeah. And you mix that with the psychopaths that don't think they've done anything wrong, and now you got a real problem. So here's what's in the news right now. And it's something that really can't be decided. So I'm going to try to help you navigate it. And I call it the dual Iran. The Iranian faction that is controlling the media today, the Iranian faction that controls the media, dismissed an American plan to pause the war in the Middle East and launched more attacks on Israel and Gulf Arab countries, including an assault that sparked a huge fire at Kuwait International Airport. There are people out there who are saying, this isn't Iran at all. It's all Israel. Israeli agents are inside Iran launching these missiles at the free world as a false flag to cause a world war and destroy Iran. I know you think it's crazy, but people that I respect are saying that right now, and I'm not in that camp yet. Now, Iran's defiance came as Israel launched airstrikes on Tehran and as the United States deployed paratroopers and more Marines to the region. Now, don't get me wrong. Now, we're talking about the region. I have said, and I've advised the administration to do this, I have said that we need to seize and occupy Karg Island. That's not going to go too well with the Democrats. I know, and all that, but it's really the only way to secure the Straits of Hormuz, and it is the crown jewel of energy for Iran. If you could seize Karg Island and manage it, everybody gets to drop their oil off and pick their oil up, and everybody can do so in peace. Manage it, then Iran has literally no choice but to resign or to surrender. Alex Jones, who was that? Hang on a second, got to scroll up just a little bit to see. Oh, Washaki Wind says Alex Jones talked about Bloomberg's midget fleet today. Interesting story. Yeah. All right. Iranian state television's English language broadcaster quoted an anonymous official as saying Iran rejected America's ceasefire proposal and has its own demands for an end to the fighting. That's why I'm calling this dual Iran, because these are the people that are controlling the press right now. These are the people that are saying, we're not talking to President Trump. No, if you talk, I haven't talked. If I haven't talked to him, we're not talking to him. That's because that's not the ones that Trump is talking to. Trump is talking to people who are really speaking for Iran. So Iran spokesman stood up today and said, Iran will end the war when it decides to do so and when its own conditions are met. That was their official TV statement. So what are the conditions? They have 5. Are you ready to hear this? I want to share this with you so you know where the propaganda is coming from. Number 1, of course, you would know this right away, right? A full halt to the aggression and assassinations by the enemy. Stop bombing us, in other words. Number 2, concrete guarantees that war will not be imposed on Iran ever again. Number 3, guaranteed and clearly defined war reparations. Like, okay, now that you've bombed all this shit, how much money are you going to give us to rebuild it all? Number 4, an end to the war across all fronts, including for all resistance groups in the region. That's Hezbollah, Hamas, the Tutsis, the Houthis, or whatever. All of that's got to stop. And number 5, international recognition and guarantees of Iran's sovereign authority over the Straits of Hormuz. Now, obviously, 0 of these are going to happen, right? We're not going to stop bombing. We're not going to stop assassinating the mullahs. We're not going to guarantee that we won't impose war on Iran again. We'll do it in the next hour if we want to, and if you deserve it. And there aren't going to be any war reparations. In fact, you'll be lucky if you get out of this with your bank accounts intact. And we're not going to end the war across all fronts. We're going to increase the war on all fronts, and we're going to make sure that no rockets ever again land in Israel, period. And of course, we're not going to recognize Iran's sovereignty over the Straits of Hormuz. The Straits of Hormuz are going to become international property, probably run by NATO or the UN or somebody. No one is going to be able to shut down the traffic in the Straits of Hormuz. Yes. Right. 72 virgins, little girls and boys. Right. That's what they want. And that's their 6th demand, isn't it? So earlier, two officials from Pakistan. Now, you think, why in the hell is Pakistan in this? You need to read Charm Favor. Charm Favor weaves Pakistan into this whole thing. Two officials from Pakistan, which transmitted the U.S. plan to Iran, described the 15-point proposal broadly of President Trump's, saying it addressed sanctions relief, a rollback of Iran's nuclear program, limits on missiles, and reopening the Straits of Hormuz, through which a fifth of the world's oil is shipped. The negotiations are taking place with another faction of Iran who does not recognize the IRGC's authority to speak for the people of Iran. Hence, two Irans. Okay? DC, so far, hasn't published any document referring to the 15-point peace plan. Nobody has it. If I had it, I would share it with you. But between what Trump has said publicly and what officials have told news organizations, we can get kind of an idea. I'm going to share that with you. Pakistani officials quoted by the Associated Press described the 15-point plan broadly as touching on sanctions relief, civilian nuclear cooperation. In other words, you want nuclear power? No problem. We'll provide you the nuclear material to power your power plants, and you can have consistent nuclear power for electricity. A rollback of Iran's nuclear program, in other words, no more enriching. No more enriching. You can have the 10 or 20 or 30% stuff, but not the 60 to 90% stuff. It's monitored by the International Atomic Energy Agency, missile limits, and access for shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. And there are small things in there also. Multiple news agencies cited Israel's Hebrew language N12 News, which reported that the peace plan includes the full dismantling of Iran's existing nuclear capabilities, a permanent commitment to never pursue nuclear weapons, and a requirement that any already enriched uranium be handed over. I think that's all part of it as well. They have shown irresponsibility, and they've shown a propensity to use whatever weapon they develop to destroy Israel. And that would include nuclear weapons if and when they develop it. Trump has said it all starts with they cannot have a nuclear weapon. This is a demand which he has been adamant on for 39 years. Did you hear that? Trump has not wavered on this demand for 39 years. He's always said Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. They cannot be trusted with it. They don't need a nuclear weapon. But that's just the nuclear part. Okay, they have become very capable and very deadly on other fronts. The plan is also to propose strict curbs on the ballistic missile programs and measures to end Tehran's financing and arming of regional proxy groups like Hezbollah, the Houthis, and Hamas, etc., and sleeper cells inside the United States. Israel and the U.S. have targeted Iran's ballistic missiles as much as they can. And here's the thing, our CP is 30, which means we can drop a missile into the glove box of a Jeep, right? The issue is, and why you have not seen an end to the hostilities yet, the issue is Iran has 500,000 Jeeps. Okay, we've only blown up like 8,000 targets. If Iran has 500,000 missile launchers, which I know they probably don't, but I'd say it's probably in the neighborhood of 50 to 75,000 missile launchers, and we've only blown up 8,000, then you know as well as I do, they're going to keep firing missiles. As soon as they stand up a launcher and they fire a missile from it, we blow the missile launcher up. But that doesn't matter. The missile's already launched. It's in the air. Now we got to blow it up. And now they're using cluster munitions, which are much harder to stop. And that's the issue. That's why you would see this go on and on and on, because Iran has a underground warehouse or warehouses of missile launchers, which we haven't even scratched yet. Scary, isn't it? And then there's the maritime routes aspect. Of course, the Strait of Hormuz, through which roughly a fifth of the world's oil flows. One of the demands, I'm sure one of the 15 demands, is they want a demilitarized zone in the Straits of Hormuz. All ships can pass freely of all nationalities for any reason. And it needs to be kept permanently open. Iran has no ability. They may have a desire to control the Straits of Hormuz because, like we would control the Gulf of America, but they don't have the hardware to do it. And agreeing to this clause would effectively require Iran to give up any leverage in the present and in the near future. I'd say in the next 30 to 50 years, Iran would have no ability to close the Straits of Hormuz. So they either are going to agree to this or they're going to be forced into this position. Now, I can tell you right now that the vast majority, 90% plus, of the citizens of Iran, the Kurds, the Jews, the Coptic Christians, the Zoroastrians, guarantee you, none of them have the slightest damn interest in the Straits of Hormuz. Closing it, opening it, coloring it, fireworks over it, they don't give a shit about it. They're focused on their lives and what they're doing and their education, their families, their communities. They don't care about the Straits of Hormuz any more than you care about the Mississippi River. Seriously. There is no faction inside the United States that would say, by God, the Mississippi River is ours, and we will determine who gets to go up and down that river. There's nobody like that in the U.S. There should be nobody like that in Iran. And there probably isn't. It's a small, militant, religious, fanatic group that wants to control the Straits of Hormuz because they know a fifth of the world's oil goes through there, and that's their leverage. They're saying we can make ourselves rich, or worse, we can make you afraid of us. If we bang 2 trash can lids together over here in the Straits of Hormuz, your gas prices go through the roof. Brooks Agnew's got to spend $70 to fill his truck up. That's our power. That's our... Well, bullshit. I don't buy that. Nobody in Iran should have the ability to close the Straits of Hormuz down. Period. Not happening. And most of Iran feels exactly the same way as I do. But Tehran still continues to hold the strategic cards, especially when it continues to maintain its chokehold over that strait. Trump appears to be following my advice to seize complete control and management of Karg Island. There was, however, one concrete move that Trump seized on. And it may be because they listened to this program, or maybe because great minds think alike. Tehran announced it would allow non-hostile vessels to pass through the Straits of Hormuz. That has already happened. Pakistani and Indian vessels have already passed through the straits unmolested. But yesterday, Trump said they gave us a present, and it was a very big present worth a lot of money. So where does Israel stand? This is what it all boils down to, doesn't it? What if Israel wants the Straits of Hormuz shut down? Because they want to build a pipeline and they want all the oil to go through Israel. You ever think about that? Well, if you haven't thought about that, you should think about that, because that's kind of the way it's shaping up. Netanyahu's cabinet isn't exactly celebrating. This 15-point plan is not exactly what they had in mind. The concern, it's not just about Iran. It's about Trump, too. Israel's worried they're going to lose control over this situation. The 2 long-range missiles that were launched toward Diego Garcia, You remember the one had a malfunction and didn't make it, but the other one was easily shot down. But that wasn't the deal. The deal was that Iran wasn't supposed to have the ability to launch a missile beyond maybe 1,200 miles. That was 2,500 miles. So everybody, London, Paris, New Delhi, all these cities began to crap their pants because they said, wait a minute, if they can launch a missile that far, that puts us in range, right? That puts London in range. That puts Paris in range. We all got to be worried about this. Yeah, but you see, these two missiles, even though they were that long range, they likely were not Iranian. They were not Iranian missiles. Iran, the mullahs purposefully limited themselves to missiles that could only reach outside their region in Israel. Because that exact reason, they didn't want to become Europe's enemies. They don't want to be the enemy of NATO. They don't want to be the enemy of NATO for having a weapon that could threaten NATO, okay? And they got good at what they could do. So you ask yourself, all right, well, if that's true, Brooks, where the hell did these two missiles come from? Well, I asked that question myself. And I said, wait a minute, when there's a candle lit somewhere on this planet, we can see it from space. We know where that missile came from. We can track its full arc. How high it went into the atmosphere, when the first stage, second stage dropped off, when the warhead came out. We could track all that stuff. We can't necessarily stop it all, especially the hypersonic stuff, but we can tell where it comes from. Why can't we tell where these two missiles come from? I would say that we can. We actually can. The issue is they're Israeli missiles. The issue is they are Israeli missiles. What was launched was a false flag. A false flag is where something is done in the name of someone else so that someone else gets the blame. That's a false flag. That's the definition of a false flag. Somebody launched a missile, blamed it on Iran, so Iran would get the blame. Iran would get the NATO attack. And whoever or whatever wants this world war would get it. Now, I'm not off base here. I'm right over the target. I can tell you that right now. Shop around, you'll see that I'm right. Tupac Sugar says, I care about the Mississippi River. Okay, whatever. So, Israel's military has made it clear that it is not standing down. No matter what Trump says, it's not standing down. Israeli military spokesman, his name is Efi Defrin, said the country's war plan was unchanged and that operations would continue to deepen the damage and remove existential threats. Israel has already carried out a devastating strike on Iran's South Paris oil field, apparently without taking Trump into confidence. Trump's pissed about it. Trump did not want their energy infrastructure attacked. Why? Because it belongs to Iran, you dumbass. The people of Iran, they're the ones that are going to benefit from the sale of that oil. Yes, it hurts the mullahs, but the mullahs are nobodies now. They're an endangered species. These people that are controlling the press in Iran are making these psychopathic public statements. They're not the ones running Iran. They're not the ones Trump is negotiating with. You hurt the process, Bibi, by blowing up the oil infrastructure. Leave it alone. Any talks between the U.S. and Iran would face monumental challenges. Many of Washington's shifting objectives, particularly over Iran's ballistic missile and nuclear programs, remain difficult to achieve simply because of the scope. There's so much of it, and it spreads so far, and it's buried so deep. You have to get to the leadership and get the leadership to say, okay. We're not going to launch any more rockets as Israel. But when have they done that? Like never. They've been launching rockets at Israel for decades. Decades. It's not clear who in Iran's government has the authority to negotiate, because obviously the ones that are controlling the press is saying, we're not talking to anybody. We haven't opened negotiations at all. Screw you. But they're not the ones running Iran now. There are two groups running Iran. Somebody is willing to speak to Trump, and they are. Now what we have to do is get the control of whoever is launching 100 and 150 rockets a day at Israel to stop doing that. Now, Pakistan's Army Chief Field Marshal Syed Asim Munir has also emerged as the key interlocutor between the U.S. and Iran. Trump said U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff, and his son-in-law Jared Kushner are also involved in the talks with Iran. And we'll see where that goes, Earth Explorers. We will see where it goes in the next few hours. Couple of stories I want to talk about right here. I do want to get this one out, which is the Lunar Base. Oh, by the way, ICE is super famous this week, doing an excellent job at the airports. Took the masks off, came in, helped with everything, handed out water, and at several airports, the lines disappeared. The lines disappeared. Atlanta, Florida. It's incredible to look at how many illegals were in those airports. Absolutely phenomenal. You're going to see a lot more of it. ICE is very well received. People are clapping. They're shaking their hands. They're taking selfies with them. People are so happy that ICE is in the airports. Now, you really want to be effective? Send ICE agents to the emergency rooms at the hospitals. Now, is that not the idea of the year? Send ICE agents to the emergency rooms at the hospitals. Hell yeah. All right, let's talk a little bit about this lunar base. Now, NASA has abandoned its plans to build a lunar orbiting space station. It was called Project Gateway. I wrote a book called Asteroid Mining, the Future of Energy. I talked about Gateway. It is hugely complex and relies on a lot of stuff that has never been tested and never been done before. The focus is not to build cis-Mars space at this time. The focus is on building cis-lunar space for one reason. They're going to use the resources to construct a $20 billion permanent base on the moon. And it's scheduled to be completed within 7 years. That's huge. You high school students right now, this is where you should be aiming. 50% of Air Force Academy graduates are going into Space Force. 50%. NASA has abandoned its plans to build a lunar orbiting space station because it's too much of a baby step. This major policy shift is outlined in NASA's new roadmap, which describes a multi-phase approach to establish a sustained human presence on or in the moon. The plan relies on international and commercial partnerships, mostly commercial, advanced technologies, and a $20 billion investment. That's not lightweight for NASA. NASA also aims to fulfill the ambitious space goals set by President Donald Trump. NASA is committed to achieving the near impossible once again, to return to the moon before the end of President Trump's term, build a moon base, establish an enduring presence, and do the other things needed to ensure American leadership in space. As part of this shift, NASA will pause its Gateway project, as I recommended that it did when I was on Coast to Coast AM with George Noory last month, which had aimed to build a small lunar orbiting space station by 2027. So Gateway's hardware will be repurposed for the Moon Base initiative. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be something in orbit around the moon, but there first needs to be a moon base. If what should be in orbit around the moon are GPS satellites, and there should be ground-based units tied to those GPS satellites for navigation. That way you can actually land drones on the moon with a much higher success rate. The plan is going to unfold in phases. The first phase focuses on repeatable missions, which I mentioned on George Noory's program. It has to be repeatable. It has to be reliable. We have never done it before. A starship needs to land on the moon and take off from the moon several times without anybody in it before we actually do it with people. The rovers need to be built. Scientific instruments need to be built. Power generation systems, these power cores are about 1 kilowatt, and they're nuclear powered, but they're very safe. And it's going to take one of them for every single astronaut on the moon. So if you have 200 people working, you'd have 200 of these power cores on the moon. That's a lot. But it's going to take 1 kilowatt to sustain one person on the moon. And that's the minimum, folks. That's the minimum. The second phase introduces semi-habitable infrastructure and regular logistics in partnership with international collaborators. Heavy infrastructure to support a continuous human foothold will follow, marking the transition from periodic expeditions to a permanent base. Why a permanent base? Because that's where the helium-3 is. And helium fusion is going to be the key to exploring space from there. The moon base will not appear overnight. We will invest approximately $20 billion over the next 7 years and build it through dozens of missions, working together with commercial and international partners. Isaacman, who's the head of NASA right now, Isaacman noted that the International Space Station's lifespan is limited. It's true. It's too small, it's too old, and it's too vulnerable. The moon is much safer. The transition to commercial stations must be thoughtful, deliberate, and structured to support long-term industry success. Now, what makes this interesting is just as this announcement is being made, SpaceX, under the direction of Elon Musk, has announced an IPO, an initial public offering. It hasn't happened yet, but I will keep you posted when it does. Now, I don't know what good that's going to do, because the initial public offering buy-in is probably going to be way beyond what you guys can afford. We may be talking $1 million buy-ins, $10 million buy-ins, I don't know. This second round will probably be in the, where you can buy a few shares of stock. But think about it. How many publicly traded companies does Elon Musk have? None. He took X private, bought all the shares of Twitter, bought everybody out and took it private, right? Tesla Motors, private. SpaceX, private. You can't buy shares in SpaceX. The only reason you would want to go public is to raise insane amounts of money. $20 billion contributed by NASA will pale in comparison to $200 billion contributed by SpaceX. $20 billion compared to $200 billion. It won't even be close. What we are about to build on the moon is going to change Earth forever. Once we figure out the helium fusion, we have solved Earth's energy problems for 10,000 years. 10,000 years. It's already sitting on the moon for us to harvest. We don't have to do anything but harvest it and fuse it. And there's plenty of space. It doesn't mean we have to build on the surface of the moon. We can build inside the moon. We can build in the lunar vents. There are all kinds of things we can do. Lunar regolith is amazingly unique in its insulative properties. Not only for temperature, because remember the surface of the moon goes from 240 above to 240 below. Yeah, think about it. 240 degrees above Fahrenheit, which, you could take that for a little while. In a Speedo, you could take it for a little while. 240 below, you can't take that very long at all. That's pretty close to that's 30 Kelvin. 36 Kelvin. That's very cold. Very cold. So, but the inside of the moon is fairly consistent. What we need to find out is what is that consistency? Is that consistency 100 degrees Kelvin? Or is it something solid that we can put a habitat in there and make a factory work? I promise you, with the right hands, and I would be totally willing to be one of them. I helped build a lunar base in a second. It's possible to build a lunar base and make it functional. And it's only 2 days away. So if something goes wrong up there, you break an arm, you get pregnant, whatever, you get an infection, you can come right back to Earth and take care of it. Mars, it's impossible. It's impossible. 6 or 7 months away. It's a death sentence. Not the moon. The moon is totally practical. I told them, stop the Gateway project, stop Artemis 3. They stopped Artemis 3 the next day. I said it on Coast to Coast, and the next day they canceled Artemis 3. Somebody is listening. Somebody's listening. Somebody bought the book, Asteroid Mining: The Future of Energy, and they figured it out. All right, let's see here. I'll have more. I'll put this in the newsletter. I'll put the story in the newsletter because I know you guys are interested in it. It's one of my favorite stories, and I'll send it out in tonight's newsletter. I got to make a couple of edits to it, but it'll go out. Yes, we will be here on Sunday. Sorry we missed Toxically Masculine Tuesday last night. Mike Bear was meeting with some Trump folks, and he canceled the program. So that's the way it goes. We will be back live again, of course, Saturday night with Earth Radio out of Jacksonville, Florida. And we will be live Sunday night at 8 o'clock with America Free Radio /X2 Radio. And I love you guys. I'm here for you. Never going anywhere. And don't worry about your orders. Everything's in good hands. Right now, the U.S. Customs is shut down. And they're working with a skeleton crew. You got to cut them some slack. They got parcels stacked to the ceiling, and they're working through it. We're getting 3-4 cases a week, and we should be getting 10 to 15 a week, but we're gonna catch up. Don't worry about it. Your orders are in good hands. We will see you on Sunday night right here at 8 o'clock on America Free Radio. Now go and do great things. Go and look for the good in people and help it to grow a little bit every day, and before long, we'll save the planet. That's how it's done. That's how it's done. Peace, Earth Explorers.